Pandemic hit, 90 years old. She has no one. Family is all out of the country. And in a pandemic.
Please, piano.
Okay, good.
Is that at the
Have to look
end
far.
or at the beginning?
Know what I mean? So I go there and I call her at least 2 or 3 days a week to make sure that she's got food, medicine, hasn't fallen, and on the floor somewhere, you know.
So after here,
After
after
swearing.
Cece's
You know
in
who
a safe
rolls
place
off?
rather than with John. I mean,
Bobby
Oh, yeah. And you know,
Who
it
rolls off
frustrates
when
me
she's
so
still
much
on?
because I want him to,
Yeah.
let a housekeeper
No,
go
but
in
Need to
there.
know that to vote.
Needs it. It's
all
starting
of
to
us
smell like a
stay,
dump in there.
and then there
It's
were
not-
2
it's
new
not good.
alternates, if I read it
He's
correctly.
afraid of letting someone in because of the COVID situation. But
I
he can
tried
leave
to-
the house, if he can go to the gym
I
and
tried.
exercise, which he has been.
I liked it better when you were
He
close
could let, for
by.
those hours that he was there, he could let someone.
Can
come
you
in and
tr-
bring
Is the
him
way they ask, yeah.
Yep, Cece
Because
saw
I had
them
lots of
being
questions
taken or
today.
moved that were in the house. And she was in there.
Really?
Oh, yeah. There was a gun that was moved. There was jewelry.
Oh,
that
thank
was
you.
moved.
That was just what I needed to hear.
Okay.
Disappeared, maybe they put it in a new place, you know, but there are things that happen, and that's with people you know. So with people you don't
See, I'm
know.
starting
From
to shake
what,
already.
the,
I wonder if
oh,
you hire a bonded company, so he can afford it,
I just want people
rather
to
than
think
just
that we're
these independent people. I think you're at risk with them. for
I
sure.
apologize. In my
But I
bucket, I
mean,
used to
bonded
have it, but I
company
took
that
everything out.
vets
Let
its
me,
employees and like that, I think you have a
excuse
better
me just for a
chance.
moment. I'm on just a
I'm
delay
gonna keep
moment.
working
see if I
on
can
it.
get
Yeah.
this. Thank you.
Good.
Healthy environment, the way it is now, you know.
I know.
Okay. I'll probably have it with you.
Your mask only works if you cover your nose and your mouth.
99.97% recovery rate. I'm okay.
Well, you're okay, but not everybody else is. It's here.
Get away from you, Tim.
It's an indoor
7 feet away from
environment.
you.
You know, you're wondering whether or not anybody is in attendance at these, so you should call out in the very beginning, call and see if there's anyone attending the Zoom meeting. So as each one of the cases are called, if you do it.
I gave her a screenshot of this.
All right, well, I'll just call her. So it's 312-626-6799. Or, okay.
I gave her this exact screenshot when I sent it to her,
I have no doubt.
and I gave her the meeting
Okay,
ID number
Let me
too.
call her back.
Thank you, Lynn.
I used to call him every day, and now I sort of do it every other day.
Yeah, probably,
Once in a while, every third day, depending on how many leftovers you have.
yeah.
good.
But she's muted.
She hit
So
start.
she said, nobody knows she's on.
They will once the meeting hasn't started yet.
Okay,
Just let her know that, to hit *9,
well, and she did.
but we haven't started
Okay,
yet.
but I'll tell her that.
Yeah, tell her that she's gonna hear the person say, if anyone wants to speak, please raise your hand.
Okay,
That's when she hits *9, and that's when they'll bring her in to
okay,
speak.
got it.
Thank you, Lynn.
You're welcome.
Are we missing somebody? We must be missing somebody. He was here,
That's who we're missing.
but they're saying there's somebody that's not here.
This is nice. We got more room to spread out.
He's here now, but he wasn't.
Yeah. Mm. Oh, well. Temporary.
No, they're new.
Hmm?
It's been new. Okay. Good afternoon. The Code Board is now in session. Bobby, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Wade,
Present.
Mrs. Archer, here. Mr. Weeks,
Here.
Mr. Kramer,
Here.
Mr. Robinson is absent and excused for the day. Ms. Norfleet,
Here,
Mrs. Telliar. Here. Mr. Profodio,
Yep.
Mr. Stamus. That completes your roll call, ma'am.
Thank you. Our attorney, Mr. Trask, is going to give an invocation for us, and I wanted to compliment him on the wonderful one he gave for Veterans Day in November at the BOC meeting. Go ahead, Mr. Trask.
Thank you. You all rise, please. Our Heavenly Father, we seek blessings on the tasks before us. Bless our efforts with clear insight, our deliberations with wisdom, our work with clarity and accuracy, and our decisions with impartiality. We pray that our work this afternoon will find favor in your sight. This we pray. Amen.
Amen. And we'll also have the Pledge of Allegiance now.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Code Enforcement Board hearing procedure is as follows. It is the intention of this board to promote, protect, and improve the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Tarpon Springs by providing an equitable, effective, and inexpensive method of enforcing various codes within the city of Tarpon Springs. Any aggrieved party may appeal a final administrative order of this board to the circuit court. Such appeal shall be filed within 30 days of the execution of the order to be appealed. Florida Statute 286.0105 requires any party appealing a decision of this board to have a record of the proceedings to support such an appeal. The procedure of the board is as follows. First, the city presents its witnesses and exhibits, after which the alleged violator is able to ask the city's witnesses any specific questions regarding their testimony. Secondly, the alleged violator is allowed to make a presentation and present his or her witnesses and exhibits. Then the city can question the alleged violator's witnesses. After both rounds of testimony, both on the part of the city and the part of the alleged violator, each party is asked to give a closing argument, first by the city and then by the alleged violator. After those three steps are taken, this board will close the public hearing portion of the case to discuss it and take appropriate action. Before we begin the public hearings, we will have all potential witnesses stand up and be sworn in by the secretary of the board. And I want to also remind everyone to please turn off or silence your cell phones. And then we have one agenda change. Item number 14 on your agenda. Off. It's settled. Thank you.
The ladies in the audience going to testify today, do y'all know?
Ladies, are you going to testify today? Hello, are you going to speak today? All right, if you could stand up, please. Anyone that's going to speak, raise your right hand, face the clerk and be sworn in.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you, Ms. Stevens.
And because we're doing a dual meeting with Zoom features and in-person testimony, anyone that's on a Zoom call will need to be sworn in when they are invited in to speak. First item on the agenda, item number 1, 19-800000674 508 Athens Street, Zorbas Zabikia LLC.
Madam Chair,
I-
we need to go ahead and do the.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot.
The nominations. And I'd like to just give you a little bit of background on what I'm talking about. As you know, you have rules of procedure that were adopted in the late 80s. Rule 1, Section 3 of your rules of procedure provides that nomination of officers shall be made from the floor at the annual organizational meeting in December of each year. This is that month. And the election shall be held immediately thereafter. So what we need to do today is that we need to take nominations from the floor for chair for the next year. And then once that is completed, then we'll need to do it for vice chair for this coming year. So I'm going to hand it back over to you, Madam Chair, to ask for nominations.
Do we have anybody on the board who wishes to make a nomination?
Yes. Are we doing chairman right now?
Yes.
I'd like to nominate, I'm probably saying it wrong, nominate Julie Wade to stay on as chairman.
You need to have a second?
Second.
Any other nominations? Okay, since there are no other nominations, Ms. Wade will retain the seat as chair. And then now we need to take nominations for vice chair from the floor.
Somebody else.
I nominate Becky Archer.
Second?
Thank you.
Any other nominations for vice chair? There being no other nominations, Ms. Archer then would stand as the vice chair for the incoming year. So thank you. I appreciate you adding that to the agenda. We can go ahead and move on to new business item number 1.
Thank you. I'll start again. Item number 1 in our new business is 19-800000674 508 Athens Street, Zorbas Zabikia LLC. Thank you. Is anyone here present for this agenda item?
There will be by phone.
Zoom,
I'm sorry.
Zoom.
Oh, they are joining us via Zoom?
By phones.
By
via
phone?
Zoom, yeah.
Mr.
So we have 3 different phones that have their hands raised at this time. So I'll allow the first one in to see if they are for this meeting.
Thank you. Hello.
He's checking.
So I have a phone number 646. Ah, there you are.
Hi.
Are you here for
This is
this meeting?
Christopher.
Could you state that again, sir?
Yes, sir. This is Christopher Grates. I'm calling for case number 20-80,462.
So that's not up yet.
So I'll lower your hand if you'll stay on the line, and I'll try the next
sir.
number. If you could unmute your phone, and are you here for this case?
No, sir, I'm not.
Okay, so I will lower your hand, and if you could stay on the line and raise your hand when your case number is called.
Okay, will do.
And if you could unmute your phone. And are you here for this case?
Yes.
Okay, if you could state your name and address for the record and be sworn in.
Lisa Richter, 8530 Orito Drive, Port Richey. SE Signature Construction.
Okay, Ms. Richards, if you could raise your right hand, I'm going to swear you under oath. Is your right hand raised?
Yes, my right hand is raised.
Okay. You swear that the testimony you're going to give at this hearing today is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, hang on just a few minutes. City is going to proceed, and then you'll have an opportunity.
Can you confirm their relationship to the property, please?
Ms. Richards, can you again state what your relationship is to the property?
We're the contractor. We're doing the work.
Have you been given authority to speak on behalf of the?
Yes. Beth Hughes was given a letter by the property owner.
That is correct, and I do have it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very
Exhibit
much.
3.
Hang on.
Do you have any, I didn't get the name of the person on Zoom. Do you have any legal objection to why the city's evidence should not be received?
No.
Thank you. We're going to mark it into evidence and have you present that, please.
Okay. My name is Beth Hughes. I'm the city code inspector certified by the Florida Association of Code Enforcement. This is case number 19-800-00674 for 508 Athens Street, Zorba Zabikia LLC. All photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All notice of violations and notice of hearings are sent return receipt requested and first-class mail. Please accept all exhibits into the record as evidence, as you've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have had some contact with both the owner, the contractor, and the manager. This case was initially started on September 23rd of 2019, and the inspection was conducted by Officer Gasson. His inspection note was that the side of the building was boarded up, the front doors and one window was boarded up, parts of the ceiling were falling down on the public sidewalk, vines were growing into the building, parts of the building were falling off, and all this was the result from a fire, and the interior was significantly damaged as well. On November 24th, a notice of violation was mailed and the green card was returned by Alicia Jones. On August 24th of 2020, there was a re-inspection conducted. The reason there was such a time lapse was because a permit had been pulled and they were given time to complete that permit. Officer Gasson looked and saw that no inspections had been requested and it had been over 6 months since the application. So he had me send a final notice of violation and the green card was returned, which most of our green cards are getting returned now, marked COVID-19, just I guess for social distancing. A re-inspection was conducted on October 12th, 2020. The work was still not complete, permits not signed off. There were still exposed wires out front. The ceiling under the awning was falling. Brickwork out front was still not complete. As a result, on October 12th, 2020, a notice of hearing was mailed and the green card was returned signed, again, COVID-19. On October 30th, the property was posted for the hearing and an affidavit of posting was signed. On November 11th was the final inspection. One window boarded, exterior was improved, but the overhang over the front was still not completed. Due to the fact that the code board was deferred from Tropical Storm Eta, A deferral notice was sent on November 12th of 2020. On November 25th, the sign for the code board hearing and the affidavit was again posted. And the final inspection as of yesterday was a large amount of progress has been made. One window was still boarded, and the workers were actively working on the structure. The violations are 8-40, the duty to maintain private property. City Code 6-1 to adopt the International Property Maintenance Codes. IPMC 301.3 for vacant structure. IPMC 304.1 for general exterior of structure. IPMC 304.13 for windows and door frames. IPMC 304.13.1 for glazing. IPMC 304.6 for the exterior walls and structure. IPMC 304.8 for decorative features. IPMC 304.9 for overhanging extensions. And City Code 133.02 for applicability and maintenance. So basically, the exterior is the only part of the case that was cited. They are not cited for completing the permit because there was a large part of the interior is also damaged. And they do have permits and they for the entire structure. Our goal from code enforcement is just to get the exterior completed. And that is my case.
Any questions?
I have a question, Beth. So are we considering everything that's still here? Didn't you say there was a lot that was completed?
Yes, Officer Gasson, being that he started this, did want to go ahead and establish for everything. Nothing has been totally completed yet. It's just a lot of progress in the last few months has been made.
Okay.
And did you say that the permits were still open and valid?
I didn't explain this. Thank you for asking. The permit for the 2019 didn't include everything. So what they ended up doing was having to close that permit, and it was closed. The building department did confirm that for me, and they had to reopen a different permit that is now a 2020 permit that is for everything that they needed to submit. I believe the 2019 permit did not include everything that it needed to. So rather than have two partial permits, they encapsulated it all into the one. Because that does include the interior, we're not making that part of the code case so that they're not going to have to complete all of that. Officer Gasson's goal when he started this was just to get the exterior completed and not sit vacant and in a dilapidated condition.
And just as a general statement, we were unable to meet last month, and I want everyone to know that nothing would be held against them for that. No additional fines are created because of that. Actually, it just gave you extra time for compliance. But we appreciate those who came and did come into compliance, and we want to respect the importance of upkeep in our city. And I just wanted to make that statement because we hadn't talked about that, but nobody gets additionally punished because we couldn't meet.
Correct.
Anybody else have a question for her?
And I'd be happy to pull up the pictures if you would like to see them, and that way Lisa can see the pictures that we have as well.
Maybe we should do that since everybody's not here. Thank you.
Okay, so this was the initial picture. The overhang, the boarded up, and the fascia. The vines covering the structure. The debris. More vines. So this is where it started to, this is when they started actively working on it. They have done an improvement on the exterior. The underside of the awning still has some exposed wires, but you can start to see significant improvement. Some of the, I believe only one of the windows is still boarded currently. And that's all the pictures.
What's your opinion of how much time they need?
I'd actually like Lisa to, the person representing, to let us know how much time they think it'll take.
We're projecting, due to COVID and various supplies and bodies that'll be needed to complete it, within 2 months.
I didn't hear the
Our
last.
contractor was out there every day last week. We had a lintel inspection that passed, and he's actually going out there tomorrow to get more stone.
Now it'll be your turn to respond to the city's case. And then, do you have any questions for the city first?
No.
Then you get to present your case.
Yeah, just wanted to identify that we have painted the outside of the building. The broken glass on the door has been replaced. The vines have been removed. The building exterior has been cleaned up. Loose stucco on the overhang was repaired. The boarded up window and the north door in the front have been blocked in. And as I stated, we're obtaining stone tomorrow morning, and we'll be going out there to install that the beginning of next week, and then continuing stucco repair on the front of the building, and touch-up paint will follow.
And do you have any idea how long it will take you to complete these exterior repairs?
They're projecting 2 months. Hopefully sooner, but with COVID and sometimes obtaining certain materials has taken some time. So we feel that 2 months is more than sufficient.
Think 2 is enough, or should we put 3 for a buffer?
You can put 3 as a buffer.
Does the board have any questions for the respondent? Do you have any questions for her?
No, thank you.
To summarize, please.
I really don't have anything to add. I would say that I would think 2 to 2.5 months would be enough, I think, for them to go ahead and complete. Because again, we're not expecting the permit to be finished, just the exterior to be completed.
Mm-hmm.
Audience, the public portion of the case is now closed. I'm ready to entertain a motion from the board.
I move that based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented and the law, that at the time of the alleged violation, sections City Code 840, 6-1, IPMC 301-3, 304-1, 304-1, 304-1, 304-6, 304-8, 304-9, and City Code 133.02 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
Is there any discussion from the board? Bobby, would you like to call roll, please?
Mr. Presidio?
Aye.
Mrs. Telio? Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Could I ask for a second motion, please, on part 2?
Does she have a suggestion for
What did I miss?
fine? Did she have
Oh,
a
do you
suggestion
have
for?
a suggestion for fines?
Being that this is the even though this has been going on for quite a long time, this is the first time that we've actually taken them to code board. The last case that they had was back in 2008. So I would say $25 a day.
Right, okay. Would anybody on the board like to make a motion?
What did she say?
I move that the respondent shall have until February 26th to bring the property into compliance with sections City Code 8-40, City Code 6-1, IPMC 301.3, IPMC 304.1, IPMC 304.13, IPM 304.13.1, IPM 304.6, IPM 304.8, IPMC 304.9, and City Code 133.02, or suffer a fine of $25 per day for each day thereafter. The respondent shall remain in violation of said codes.
I'll second that.
Bobby?
Mr. Studio,
Aye.
Mrs. Tillier,
Yes.
Mrs. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade.
Yes. Mr. Trask, would you like to summarize for the respondent, please?
Ms. Richards, the property owner, Zorba Zabikia LLC, has been found in violation of the cited code section and been given until February 26, 2021 to bring those violations into compliance. Should they fail to be brought into compliance by that date, there will be a $25 a day fine until compliance has been met. There will be a board order entered. It will be ordered within the next 10 days and mailed to Zorba Zabikia LLC at the address listed with the property appraiser of Pinellas County. If you have any questions after this meeting, please feel free to contact the Code Enforcement Department.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Items 2, 3, and 4 have been deferred. We're going to item 5. 20-8000417. The address is 41680 US Highway 19 North, Alliance Group of Tampa Bay, LLC. I couldn't tell, Mr. Jump, if that was one of the call-ins. I made a note on number 8, but I couldn't tell on this one. Anyone here for that group, please raise your hand.
If anyone is here for this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to speak. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Thank you. With no one here to make an objection, we'll have the city present its case, please.
Okay, my name is Beth Hughes, the City Code Inspector, certified by the Florida Association of Code Enforcement. This is case number 20-800000417 for 41680 US Highway 19 North for the Alliance Group of Tampa Bay. Exhibit 1 is all photos. Exhibit 2 is all notices to include the NOVs and NOHs. Exhibit 3 is the administrative documents to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records. Exhibit 4 is the affidavit of posting and copy of the sign. All of the photographs and exhibits were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All notice of violations and notice of hearings are sent, return receipt requested, and first-class mail. Thank you for accepting all exhibits into the record as evidence.
Bobby, will you mark those into evidence, please? Would you mind putting them up, please, so that
Sure.
everybody can see?
If you want, I can do that before we begin each case.
That'd be great.
Okay, so this is the first photograph when Officer Gasson made the initial inspection. This is the furniture store that's right by Lowe's. Unfortunately, a lot of people use their dumpster enclosure area as a dumping site. The next picture shows some of the graffiti that was on the wall. And this is they pretty much, unfortunately, this case is dragged on for a while. And what continues to happen is they do remove the debris and then it comes right back. One of the reasons they were actually cited for this dumpster enclosure to be repaired. So if it were to be repaired and they were to have the doors that could be locked, then that might help a little bit with the dumping issue. But unfortunately, it's just something they're going to have to manage on a regular basis. Should I go ahead and continue?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. We did not have any contact with the owner until very recently. I did get a phone call and an email. On August 5th, 2020 was the initial inspection by Officer Gasson. The door of the dumpster enclosure, the door is off the dumpster enclosure, trash dumped around the enclosure, and graffiti on the wall behind the dumpster. On August 11th, 2020, a courtesy letter was mailed. The mail to the tenant was returned vacant. On August 31st, 2020, a reinspection was conducted and more trash was dumped near dumpster nearly blocking the alleyway. On August 31st, 2020, a notice of violation was mailed and the green card returned COVID-19 and the tenant vacant. On September 30th of 2020, a reinspection was conducted and there was still trash around the dumpster area. On October 12th, 2020, the notice of hearing was mailed and the green card returned again, COVID-19 and tenant vacant. On October 30th of 2020, the sign was posted and the affidavit of posting was signed. On November 11th was the initial final inspection by myself. There was a very small amount of debris by the dumpster, but the dumpster enclosure is still missing doors. On November 12th, 2020, the deferral notice was mailed and the green card return signed. On November 25th, the sign was again posted and the affidavit of posting signed. The final inspection was conducted yesterday, and that's where you see this, this picture was taken on that day. Unfortunately, they've been dumped on more. They've got a TV. The enclosure has not been repaired, and all the vegetative debris is now there. And so the violations that we are requesting to be found are City Code 139.01 for the dumpster screening requirements, 8-22 for the accumulation of trash, City Code 6-1, adopting the international property. Excuse me, I'm not going to ask that nor the graffiti to be found. Those are in compliance. So I'm going to remove those from the violations.
Clarify that again. The last item, the IPMC is removed?
Yes, the City Code 6-1
Okay.
and IPMC 302.9 have been in compliance for quite some time. I'm going to remove those.
And the building is unoccupied?
It is unoccupied. I believe at the last it was either a mattress store or furniture store. Therefore, like I said, the property manager is just going to have to constantly keep an eye on this location, and they need to finish the repair of the dumpster enclosure.
Does anyone else on the board have questions? There's no respondent here, so the public portion of the case is closed. Do you have suggestions?
In order to make the repair, they may need a permit, a building permit. So for the dumpster enclosure only, I would say 2 months. And they're just going to have to continue to watch the accumulation of debris in that area, or they're going to end up being a repeat violator. So I would say, honestly, anywhere between 30 and 60 days. The only reason I'm even saying 60 days is because of the dumpster enclosure being repaired might require a permit, and that's it. Otherwise, I would honestly 10 days.
Ready to entertain a motion?
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violations, sections City Code 139.01, 8-22, City Code 6-1, no, take that, just the two, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondents were in violation thereof.
Second.
Unless there's a discussion, Bobby will call the roll.
Mr. Porfirio?
Aye.
Mrs. Tellier?
Yes.
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Archer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Do you need to summarize if there's not anybody here?
Well, we need to do the
We
second
need to
part.
do the second motion.
Okay. The first motion has passed. Does anybody have a second motion?
Move that the respondent shall have until February 10th to bring the property into compliance with code sections, say it again, 139.01 and 8-22, or suffer a fine of, is this their first? Beth?
This is, I'm sorry. The last case for the accumulation of trash was back in 2018.
Okay, I'm going to say $50 per day for each day thereof. The respondents remain in violation of said code sections.
Second.
Bobby?
Porfirio?
Aye.
Mrs. Tellier?
Yes.
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And there's no need to summarize since there's no one here.
Next is item number 6. It's listed as case number 20-8000426, 43380 US Highway 19 North, Robert A. Sprinthal Family Trust. Is anyone here for this agenda item? If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand.
And if anyone is raising their hand, please do so now. And we do not have any raised hands in Zoom.
Thank you. There's nobody to object. Let's start with your evidence and presenting your case.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Bobby's going to mark it into evidence.
So this store is the B21, just across the bridge, US 19. And basically, we started receiving phone calls. We've received many phone calls regarding the outdoor storage that all of a sudden showed up. So this is the first photo back on the initial inspection. Just kind of a close-up of all the items that were there. And I think that's it. I did not bother to take another picture yesterday because it really hasn't changed. We've done multiple inspections. We've gone inside to try to find a manager to speak with them, and we really have not had much of a response. I finally ended up opening a second code case for this property due to trash. And I did finally get an email contact and I did get a response, and some of the trash around the dumpsters was removed. I did ask about this case in particular on the storage and really have not had any response of any kind. An employee inside the store, when I initially went in to ask about it, did say that they are attempting to get more storage containers for the items, but I've not heard anything officially from a manager nor an owner, and it really has not changed since it began.
Now I have a silly question. That is within the city limits?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
But my understanding is that stuff they've got stored is temporary. They're using it somewhere, and eventually it's going to go away. Have they told you that?
They have not told me anything about it. I believe it's for a shipping business that they're doing, that they're doing more shipping than their shipping business exploded during COVID. And I believe that the employees at the register told me that, and that's what the material's for.
I had heard that it's going to go away eventually, and my concern would be the time frame. If it's there another few days, but if it's there a few months, it looks like.
Yeah, it's been there for quite some time.
Yeah, it looks like, you know what?
Yeah, and what I find odd is that they're not communicating with us. So, I mean, we've tried. Officer Gasson made an attempt to go in, and so did I.
What was the date of the initial?
I'm just about to start that portion, if that's okay.
Do they need a permit to get a storage container?
All of that would be a zoning issue on what they're zoned for, and if it came to that, then I would have to check that. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, so no such thing has been applied for that we know of?
That I know of, no, ma'am.
Does anybody else have questions for her?
She needs to finish presenting her case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Exhibit 1 was all photos that we just went over. Exhibit 2, all notices to include the notice of violation and the notice of hearings. Exhibit 3 is the administrative documents to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records. And I'm sorry, I didn't start it all. This is case number 20800000426, 43380 US Highway 19 North. For Robert A. Family Sprentnall Trust, Robert A. Sprentnall Trustee. Exhibit 4 is the affidavit of posting and copy of the sign. All the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All notice of violations and notice of hearings are sent return receipt requested in first-class mail. Please accept all exhibits into the record as evidence.
Thank you. Bobby has done so, I think.
The only contact with the owner that we've had is that one email, and that was more in response to the other case for the trash. On August 10th, 2020, Officer Gasson did the initial inspection. The exterior of the front of the building was being used to store shipping boxes and inserts. On August 11th of 2020, a courtesy letter was mailed. The letter to the tenant was returned vacant, even though it's not. On September 8th, 2020 was a reinspection, and there was no change. On September 8th of 2020, a notice of violation was mailed, green card returned unclaimed. On October 1st, 2020 was another reinspection. Still have items being stored outside in the front. On October 12th of 2020, the notice of hearing was mailed. On October 30th of 2020, the sign was posted and the affidavit of posting signed. On November 11th was the final inspection for the November hearing, and there was a large amount of outdoor storage still located in front of the building, trash and debris located around the dumpster. On November 12th of 2020, the deferral notice was mailed and returned unclaimed. On November 25th of 2020, the sign was again posted and the affidavit of posting signed. On December 9th, 2020 was the final inspection. There was still a large amount of items being stored externally. So the violation that we're requesting to be cited is the city ordinance 57.00 for outdoor storage. And that concludes my presentation.
Did anyone else have questions for her?
Yes, so these people just aren't listening to you. Is that correct? I mean, you've tried a number of times.
We've tried going into the
for 4
store,
months,
yeah.
And nobody's paid attention.
We've only had the one email as a response, but no change in the outdoor storage, no.
Mr. Perfidio, did you also have a question?
The deferral, all the notices are receipt required, requested. Does somebody have to sign for that?
If we're supposed to get, yes, for every notice that we send except a courtesy letter, but all the notice of violations and notice of hearings are sent certified mail and first class.
So everything that they're sending back, they're just refusing it?
We got a couple back unclaimed, yes.
Okay, so they just refused it.
That would be my interpretation.
Okay, thank you.
You've not had a chance to speak with anybody in charge there.
I did once. I'm not sure who. I know Officer Gasson went inside and attempted to speak with someone. There was the first inspection I did when I went to post for the November hearing. There was a bevy of activity to the south end of the building where their storage is. And I went in there and asked to speak with the manager, and they said he wasn't there, but then pointed out someone in the parking lot who would be the best person to speak to. So I pointed out that I was posting the sign and what it was for and the reason. And so I spoke with him. Again, I spoke with the employees at the inside register asking to speak to a manager on 2 different occasions. And every time I requested that, I was always told that he just left.
That's a respected old-time local company, and I'm surprised they're not.
I don't
to
understand it
respond.
either, to be honest with you.
If it's a matter of a storage container, that's not a big deal. They've got the property. I don't know. I'd be the guy that would want to fine them very strongly after a period of time.
Oh, it'd be that guy
I
too.
mean, they're not going to respond to $10 a day. I'm the guy that would hit them pretty big, but after they understood they have 30 days, or I'm just speaking.
Yeah.
But then whack them. They got the money. It's not about they can't afford it. In fact, I heard what all that material's for is for shipping stuff elsewhere, the stuff they sell. And if they're shipping that kind of stuff, they got lots of money. And in talking to one of the other liquor stores locally, the other liquor stores told me that story.
It's not a case of having lots of money. It's a case of ignoring and basically flouting the law.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Will be sent.
And it looks like hell in front of that building. Well, anyway, that's my input.
No one else has a comment, then we'll go to phase 1. Does anyone like to make a motion?
I move on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in the law that at the time of the alleged violation, Section City Code 57.00 of the city ordinances of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondents were in violation thereof.
Second.
Bobby, roll call, please.
Mr. Perfidio?
Aye.
Mrs. Telliar?
Yes.
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Archer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And now we need a second motion.
I move that the respondent shall have until 20 January to bring the property into compliance with code section, city code 57.00, outdoor storage, or suffer a fine of $100 per day for each day thereafter the respondents remain in violation of said code section.
Second.
Is there any further discussion on that?
Could I have the date again? I apologize, I did
I'm
not
sorry.
hear it.
20 January.
January 20th.
Do you want it to wait? I guess we have to wait about that long.
30 days, correct?
Yeah.
Not a minute more.
And the amount that you were suggesting?
$100 per day.
I would like for people to consider $250 a day, just because they need to pay attention. And if it's $250, they might as well, do that.
I'd like to amend my motion then to $250 per day.
And I'll second that one.
Bobby, roll call, please.
Studio,
Aye.
Mrs. Chillier,
Yes.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Ms. Archer, Ms. Wade.
Yes. Next case is item number 7 on our agenda. Item number 20-8000433. The address is 1546 Big Bass Drive, Patricia Boggs Young. We have someone here for that case, and she's coming forward. Are you Miss Young?
She's deceased. I'm her daughter, Shelley Law.
So you kind of understand, she'll present a case, you can ask her questions, then you'll present the case, we can ask you questions, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you.
We have some evidence to
Sure, I'll bring the pictures up.
admit.
Since you have them, do you have any objection to the?
No, ma'am. I can't argue with anything. I wasn't there.
Thank you for getting ahead of me there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask before I put it up.
Nope, that's correct. It feels like we haven't been here in forever, so I'm struggling.
So this picture was actually taken by Officer Gasson. Excuse me. There was sorry, what am I doing? So initially there was a boat in the yard as well, but that was removed fairly quickly. And then there were just, the main thing about the case was just vehicles that were on the property at different times that were not registered or tagged, or possibly inoperable or being worked on. And that's pretty much what the photos show. One.
Bobby, will you mark these into evidence when they come your way, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my name is Beth Hughes. I'm the City Code Inspector certified by the Florida Association of Code Enforcement. This is case number 20-800-00433 for 1546 Big Bass Drive. Patricia Boggs Young is the owner. Exhibit 1 is all the photos. Exhibit 2, all the notices to include the notice of violations and notice of hearings. Exhibit 3, the administration documents to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records. Exhibit 4, the affidavit of posting and the copy of the sign. All of the photographs and exhibits were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County property appraiser and tax collector databases. All notice of violations and notice of hearings are sent return receipt requested in first-class mail. Please accept all exhibits into the record as evidence.
Thank you. Bobby's doing so.
And we have had contact with the owner, Miss Shelley Law, who's here today. She was not aware, I don't believe, that this case even existed until unfortunately her mom had passed away, and she came here for that and found out that I believe her brother had been signing for most of the mail, and most of the vehicles were his. So on August 11th, 2020.
I'm sorry, you said most of the vehicles, what?
I believe most of the vehicles were there because her brother lived with her mother and they were on the property by his doing. They were his vehicles.
Thank you.
On August 11th of 2020, Officer Gasson conducted the initial inspection. He received a call from an anonymous neighbor via Detective Division regarding unregistered cars at the address. Upon inspection, there were 5 vehicles at the address: a red Toyota SUV with no tag, a silver Hyundai, which that tag did not belong to that car, a red PT Cruiser with no tag, a white pickup that was not registered, a white Chevy SUV with expired Florida tag. He spoke to the property owner's son, Jay Law, and advised him of the violations and the fact that they needed to be corrected in 10 days. On that same date, he left a door hanger. He said that he spoke to Jay Law, advised him about the vehicles, and that the boat needed to be either legal or removed. On August 31st, a notice of violation was mailed, and the green card was signed by Jay Law. On September 11th, a reinspection was conducted. A white truck had no tags and was on jack stands. The boat was still in the front yard, and the red PT Cruiser was in the driveway. On September 14th of 2020, a notice of hearing was mailed, and the green card was signed by Jay Law. The property owner passed away on September 17th, and we sent a deferral because the daughter had just arrived the day before the hearing, I believe, and so we deferred the case for that reason. On September 22nd, the deferral notice was mailed and the green card was signed by Shelley Law. On October 30th, the sign was posted and the affidavit of posting was signed. On November 11th was the final inspection before the November hearing. There is a 621 sticker on the red Toyota, so it was currently tagged. The silver Hyundai was still not registered. I spoke with the owner of the Hyundai, and she had an appointment to complete it the next week. The daughter of the Shelley Law intends to attend the code board hearing tomorrow. This is just the note I put in the case, and verify the red Toyota tag was current. On November 12th, 2020, the deferral notice was mailed and the green card was returned signed. On November 25th, 2020, the sign was posted and the affidavit of posting signed. And we were actually called by Ms. Law to come do a final inspection early because it was in compliance. And I did verify that all vehicles on the property on December 7th, 2020 were tagged and registered and were in compliance. The case was put in compliance at that time. We are only asking for the violations of a City Code 40.00 and 42.00 to be established because there has been a history of this violation with that property. And the city is done with its presentation.
This will be where you just get to ask questions. Are you Shelley?
Yes, I am.
We're sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
So you can ask her any questions and then you get a chance to present.
I really don't, and I apologize, I really don't have anything to present. I've, like you said, come into a compliance and spoke to you a couple of times. The only thing I can tell you is I'm in the process of moving my brother out of the house. One vehicle will be there. That's it. That's the Kia that you saw in the last picture. That's me. I'm gonna be take over the ownership of the home. So all else will, and it is in compliance as of today. The silver, I can't remember the name of the car that had the temp tag on it. Today she got a permanent tag on it. So that's completely in compliance as well.
It sounds like you kind of presented your case already now. Okay. Does the board have any questions for Shelley? Do you need to summarize anyway?
No, I think we're good.
Shelley, do you feel like you've been heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And again, we're just requesting to establish it is in compliance.
Unless anybody has any further questions, we'll ask for a motion.
Just a quick question, okay?
Yes, sir. I'm
The-
sorry. I didn't see you.
The house is currently in your mother's name or your name?
It's actually due to, we had a Lady Bird deed set up and it's actually goes into mine, my brother's and my sister's name. My brother and myself at this point reside in the home. My sister lives in Texas. I'm in the process of buying them out of the house. So it's in the three of our names right now, but it will just be in mine.
And you're going to be living on the property?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I did confirm with the lawyer that the Lady Bird deed did go through, and with the county, I guess, it is in effect that it's in our names.
You've had a lot of work to do.
Yes, ma'am. Been quite busy.
Now, unless I'm missing somebody, we could hear a motion.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in the law that at the time of the alleged violation, sections 40.00 and 42.00 of the Code of an Ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs were in full force and effect. At the time of the notice of violation, the respondents were in violation of said code sections. However, they are now in compliance.
I second.
One that you wanted to have,
Yes.
Beth, is that the proper document that you wanted?
I apologize.
Our
That
paperwork
was the
does,
correct, that was the correct motion.
okay.
Yeah.
Our paperwork didn't say request for compliance. That's why I got confused.
Yeah.
But I've been confused before.
It said it was now in compliance.
And I didn't, and you are agreeing that it is now in compliance.
It is in compliance. We're just requesting that they're established.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Sorry. Bobby, go ahead.
Mr. Graffitio,
Aye.
Mrs. Tilliar,
Yes.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade.
Yes.
Complete your roll call.
Would you like me to summarize?
Yes, please.
Ms. Law, the property owner has been found in violation of code sections 40.00 and 42.00. Should this property come into violation again within the next 5 years and the property is still in the same name, that it would be considered a repeat violation and subject to higher fines up to $500 a day. There will be an order issued by the Code Enforcement Board within the next 10 days, and it'll be provided to the property owner at the address listed by the property appraiser's address. If you have any questions, you can contact Code Enforcement Department after the hearing. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Next is item number 8, and then I do believe we have somebody that's holding on Zoom for this one.
Yes.
Item 20-8000462, 500 North Walton Avenue, Sun State Properties.
Stand for silence while louder.
Okay,
Do you still have your hearing, Bobby?
I'm still sitting. Seating.
Not hear that one at all.
am the property manager for 500 North Walton Avenue. I am under the understanding that the property owner is on this call as well. I believe he should be raising his hand now.
Sir, if you could state your name, please.
Yes, sir. It's Christopher Grates.
All right, I need you to raise your right hand to swear you under oath.
Yes, sir.
You swear the testimony you're about to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, who's the other individual that's joining?
He should be Mark Christensen. He's on the other line as well.
They could then raise their hand and I'll allow them in to talk. We don't have any raised hands at this time. Wait, there it is. I'll allow them in.
Mr. Christensen, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello?
All right. Yes, we can hear you. If you can go ahead and raise your right hand, I'm going to swear you're under oath. You swear that the testimony you're about to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, who is the actual owner of the property?
I am.
Okay, so we're going to be
Mark
asking,
Christian.
we're going to be asking questions of you in just a few minutes, but if you can hang on, the city is going to present its case.
Okay.
Do you have any legal objection to why the city's evidence should not be received, Mr. Christensen?
It's Christian.
It's Christian, and no, I don't.
Christian, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bobby's going to accept that, and Beth's going to present the case. Thank you.
Okay. Did you want to see the exhibits first, or, I mean, the pictures first, or go ahead and present?
See the pictures. Pictures.
Okay. So basically, let me share my screen, sorry. So this first couple of pages, I'm not going to read it to you, but it basically is a police report, and that's how this case came about. Sergeant Brockue let me know about a call that they had for a underage person renting a house through illegally by using his parents' information. And there was a large party and the police had to be called out. So I researched it to verify that it was in fact being listed as an Airbnb. And that is when I did find a listing. I'm going to go past the police report. These are just the pictures that from the party, from the police report. And again, this was through no fault of the owner. They used the children used the wrong or their parents' information. So I went ahead and did find the listing. And as you can see, it showed a minimum stay of 2 nights, which 6 weeks for where this property is zoned is the minimum amount. It let me try to rent it for 4 nights. So that's just showing that the website was showing that you could rent it for less than the 6 weeks. And then this is the picture of the home. And that's the website. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here. Okay, so my name is Beth Hughes. I'm the City Code Inspector certified by the Florida Association of Code Enforcement. This is case number 20-800-00462 for 500 North Walton Avenue, Sun State Property of Tarpon Springs, LLC. Exhibit 1 are all the photos. Exhibit 2, all notices to include the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit 3, the administrative documents to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records. Exhibit 4, the affidavit of posting and copy of the sign. All of the photographs and exhibits were given to the violator, exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County property appraiser and tax collector databases. All notice of violations and notice of hearings are sent, return receipt requested, in first-class mail. Please accept all exhibits into the record as evidence.
Thank you. Bobby's doing that.
We have had contact with the owner recently via phone call and some emails. On August 20th, 2020 was the initial inspection. That was when I verified that there was a short-term rental on Airbnb. And that's when I attached the police report with the documentation that was being used as the Airbnb also. On August 21st, a notice of violation was mailed and the green card was returned signed, but the signature was illegible. On September 25th, a reinspection was conducted. The short-term rental with a minimum of 2 nights was still being advertised, so we were sending a notice of hearing. We did so on September 25th of 2020, and the green card was again returned signed. On October 30th, the sign was posted, an affidavit of posting signed. On November 11th, the final inspection for the initial hearing was conducted, and there was still advertising a minimum of 2-night rental. On November 12th of 2020, the deferral notice was mailed and no green cards were returned. On November 25th, the sign was posted and the affidavit of posting signed. And on December 9th, a final inspection was conducted. We basically had a 3-way phone call between the property owner's property manager and himself. We went over the violations for this case and the next case that's coming up for the same address, and went over what all the violations still remained. I was told the next day that the advertising for the short-term rental had been corrected. And as a matter of fact, all of the reservations on the 3 different sites I could find actually wouldn't allow you to make a reservation of any kind. Therefore, I did put it into compliance. So we're requesting for this to be established as a violation of the Planning and Zoning Code 25.02 for a single-family resident district. And that concludes my presentation.
Mark, Christian, do you have any, this will be just questions for her, and then you'll get a chance to make your case. Do you have any questions for?
Can you hear me right now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Can I refer this to Chris, my property manager?
So the answer is yes.
I don't have any.
Yes, you can. Chris, do you have
Okay,
any questions? Just questions for the officer?
Not at this time, no.
Thank you. Now you get to present your side of the case.
Understood. Yep. So once we received the notice of violation, as it's specified on 213 Torrestone, we were under the impression that it verbatim states transition. It states that, one quick second, let me pull it up. One quick second.
Couldn't quite hear that.
He's pulling.
It states 213 Torrestone, a single-family detached dwelling where the primary use is to provide temporary lodging accommodations for compensation to transition residents, especially motor tourists or travelers. A transient resident shall mean a visitor to the community who does not use the dwelling as a principal residence, who is neither gainfully employed in the community nor a student currently enrolled in a school in the community, or who resides in the dwelling for less than 6 weeks. So we were under the understanding that it was one of those 3 things, right? So it would be more than 6 weeks where it would be permitted, right, to be able to utilize the property as a rental. The other one was gainfully employed by the community. And the third one was a student currently enrolled in a school located within the community. So at the time that we received this notice, we were under the understanding that it could be one of these 3 things. Now, we received the declaration to this particular code law probably around 2 days ago, right? So what we were doing, we were under the understanding that we were following the code law as it pertains specifically to the notice of violation that we received, until we received clarification, again, 2 days ago, that it just needed to be more than 6 weeks. And at that point, just like Beth pointed out, we took it offline.
Does the board have any questions for this respondent? Does the city have questions for him?
No, thank you.
Would you like to summarize the case, please, Beth?
Basically, we did finally get communication over the last few days. They did go ahead and change the advertisements where you are unable to. So again, basically, we're just looking to go ahead and establish it. Therefore, if it does happen again, then it would be a repeat violation.
Thank you.
Can't we get
Mr.
clear?
Grace, do you need to summarize, or do you feel like you told us what you needed to?
I'm okay, thank you.
on whether we can do this exception.
Okay.
Okay, I couldn't quite hear, sorry. Board, I'm ready to entertain a motion that they are now in compliance.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in the law that at the time of the alleged violations, section 25.02 of the city code was in full force and effect. At the time of the notice of violation, the respondents were in violation of said code section. However, they are now in compliance.
Second.
Thank you, Bobby.
Mr. Porfirio,
Aye.
Mrs. Hilliard,
Yes.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes?
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade.
Yes.
That completes your roll.
Would you like me to summarize?
Yes, please.
So, Mr. Grace and Mr. Christian, the property owner, Sun State Property of Tarpon Springs LLC, has been found in violation of section 25.02 of the city code. There will be there is no fine associated with it because it's now in compliance. There will be an order entered within the next 10 days and provided to the property owner at the address listed by the property appraiser's office. If the property goes into violation again within the next 5 years of the same code section, it will be deemed a repeat violator. Fines would start immediately, up to $500 per day. If you have any questions as to what has happened today, please feel free to contact the Code Enforcement Department after the meeting.
And please remain on the line because I believe this next one is for y'all as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Case number 9, 20-8000590, also at 500 North Walton Avenue, Sunshine State Properties. You folks are still under oath. And this is for that same property. Do you have any objection to the city putting its evidence up for us, please?
No.
He said no.
He said no.
Okay, thank you. Bobby's going to mark them received, and Beth's going to present the case. Thank you.
Okay. So just to go through the pictures real quick, we received multiple complaints that started with the trash cans probably being left by the residents of the Airbnb on the street and not being taken in and being put out on the wrong day and being left out for days at a time. When Officer Gasson did the initial inspection, he noted that the grass was overgrown, that the fence was in need of repair. Basically, here's a picture of the trash cans being out on different days. This last picture, it was just the trash cans and the recycle bins that were left out. But at this point, the fence had been repaired and the yard had been cut. And those are the main exhibits. The only thing that may become an issue later in this case, I'm going to point it out while the picture is up before I take the pictures down. I think I can make this bigger. Is if you note there's a concrete block here with a post sticking out of it. This was part of the debris that was mentioned, and that's really the only thing that's left in the yard in addition to this block next to the garbage cans that I don't know if it was a old mailbox post that just hasn't been completely removed. Those are the only two things that are left there. The trash cans at this point, the recycle bins are out of public view as of today. And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Okay, so my name is Beth Hughes. I'm the City Code Inspector certified by the Florida Association of Code Enforcement. This is case number 20-800-00590 for 500 North Walton Avenue for Sun State Property of Tarpon Springs, LLC. Exhibit 1 are all photos. Exhibit 2, all notices to include the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit 3, the administrative documents to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records. Exhibit 4, the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. All of the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All notice of violations and notice of hearings are sent, return receipt requested, and first-class mail. Please accept all exhibits into the record as evidence.
Thank you. She's got them in there.
Okay, and again, we have had contact with the owner and the property manager as well in our three-way phone conversation we had a couple days ago. On October 1st, 2020, the initial inspection was completed by Officer Gasson. The property was overgrown, trash cans left in the yard, and the fence was in poor condition. On October 5th of 2020, the notice of violation was mailed and the green card return signed by Mark Kristen. On October 21st was the reinspection. The fence had been repaired, the grass had been cut, the trash cans are empty but in public view, and the concrete block with the post left by the post was still there by the house, not in compliance. On October 21st, the notice of hearing was mailed and the green card return signed. On October 30th, the sign was posted and the affidavit of posting signed. On November 11th, the final inspection was conducted before the November hearing. The trash cans were off the street but sitting in front of the garage in public view. The recycle container was still on the curb. And a concrete block with a cutoff post was still laying on the north side of the property. On November 12th,
You'll get a
November
chance, just a minute, please.
On November 12th, the deferral notice was mailed and no green cards were received. On November 25th, the sign was posted and the affidavit of posting was signed. On December 9th was the final inspection. So again, where the city is standing right now is that the pre-collection practices 8-16 is in compliance, but we would like to establish it for that. 8-40, the duty to maintain private property is in compliance. The fence, but we'd like to establish it. The 36.03 fences, wall of hedges is in compliance, but we would like to establish it. And 8-52 for the debris, which is only that one piece of concrete with the post, is the only thing that's not in violation, or excuse me, not in compliance right now. I believe Mr. Kristen may say that he that is not on his property. The location of that block is between his fence and between the fence of his neighbor. It's closer to his fence than the neighbor. It appears to be somewhat like the debris that had been on the property. So I had requested a survey if he had one so we could see. If it's not on his property, we'll comply it and be done with it. So I requested a survey. He did tell me it had been removed, but I went by this morning and it is still there. And that concludes the city's presentation.
I have a question. She mentioned 36.03 and I don't have it listed.
I'm sorry, 36.03. You're right. I did not add that. I think I didn't add that. I apologize because it had come into compliance. So we don't need to establish that one. I apologize.
So just the three of them there.
Just the three. 8-16, the pre-collection practices. They did repair the fence right away. The reason we're requesting to establish the pre-collection practices is it took multiple weeks for that to finally come into compliance.
Anyone else have a question for her? Now, Mr. Grace or Mr. Christian, the first part is you get to ask her questions. Then that's questions only. Following that, you can present your case. Do you have any questions for the officer?
Okay, thank you. I don't have any questions.
I don't either. Thank you.
Thank you. Now you get to go. Your turn.
Understood. Yep. So regarding the actual grass itself, We had some issues with the landscape folks that help us out at that particular property. They stopped going out for quite some time due to COVID-19, so that was the reason for the delay. Once we received the notice from Beth, as she explained just now, we went to compliance quickly. We actually have the property on a 2-week rotating schedule for landscaping and yard work. The trash cans are out in the back of the house, so they are behind the fence. We were under the understanding they could just not be in the front of the house. That's why we had put it next to the garage. Once clarification was made, they are permanently in the back of the house unless we actually need to take trash out on trash day. Regarding the block itself, based on Exhibit 1 that she presented, she had to zoom in a little bit, so there was a little bit of confusion here, to be quite honest. Once we received that picture, we believed it to be the left-hand side block next to the trash cans. I don't know if there's a way that we can put it up to reference it if need be. However, we sent someone out to go take a look at the concrete slab on the front left-hand side. It must weigh at least 150 to 200 pounds. We were able to take the lid, but the other part seems to be connected somehow to the ground. So we were looking at the left-hand side block when we initially received this picture. We had not seen the back part, right, which was not very clear. We sent someone out, since that is also pretty heavy concrete. They actually took it today, right? So Beth, I actually had sent over some pictures probably a couple of hours ago. That is in fact in compliance. You're more than welcome to look through this. But again, as we go through this, we needless to say want to be in voluntary compliance. We have been a little bit back and forth until we get a good understanding as to what the requirements were. But I think as of now, we are in full compliance based on the open items that we have.
Great, thank you.
Does the board have any questions for the respondent? Beth, do you have any questions for them?
No, thank you.
Do you feel like you need to summarize, sir?
I think I do not.
Do you feel like you need to summarize?
No, the only thing I would say is I will need to, of course, verify that final violation is in compliance. So, if we want to give a week or whatever, just in case it isn't for any reason where I can contact them and give them a chance to get that in compliance. And otherwise, like I said, my goal is simply to establish it to make sure that that they keep it in compliance.
So if I'm summarizing, we're establishing 8.16. We're agreeing that 8.40 is in compliance?
Yes, I'm sorry. 8-40 is in compliance. 8-52, I still need to personally verify.
Okay. So 2 items we need to establish and 1 we can mark as in compliance.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Then I'm ready to entertain a motion if I don't see any questions. Public portion of the case is now closed, and we'll have a motion. I think we'll need 2 separate motions for this.
One for the established one.
Uh-huh.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in the law that at the time of the alleged violations, sections 8-16 and 8-40 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs, what?
I think we want 816 and 852 together.
No.
And 840
No, she's
separate.
got it right.
40.
Ms. Archer has it correct.
Okay, then I have it wrong in my notes. Please clarify again. 816 needs to be established.
And 840-40.
840.
And 840, sorry, thank you.
Of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs was in full force and effect. At the time of the notice violation, the respondents were in violation of said code sections. However, they are now in compliance.
Second.
If there are no questions, Ms. Bobby will call roll.
Mr. Perfidio?
Aye.
Mrs. Tilliard?
Yes.
Mrs. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes,
That completes the roll call.
and now we have this second part of that. Do we need a second motion regarding those two items?
Those two items are completed.
Those, yeah.
We just need two more motions, and those would be on 8-52.
Got it.
Okay.
I moved, based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in the law, that at the time of the alleged violation, Section 8-52 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Spring was in force and effect, and respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
Bobby?
Mr. Porfirio,
Aye.
Mrs. Tillier,
Yes.
Mrs. Mrs. Norfleet, excuse me.
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes.
Yes.
That completes your roll call.
Got the second motion for that one.
Where's Maggie?
Do you have,
Rhonda?
Beth, do you have any input on this?
Oh, I would say 1 week, just in case it's not for any reason, to give them time to get it in compliance. I'm sure that it probably is. And only because we had the police report and multiple complaints regarding the trash cans, especially, I would say $50 a day.
Okay. Thank you. Would like to complete the motion, please?
I move that the respondent shall have until December 18th to bring the property into compliance with the city code section 8-52 or suffer a fine of $50 per day for each day thereafter the respondent remains in violation of said code sections.
Second.
Bobby?
Mr. Porfirio,
Aye.
Mrs. Tillier.
Yes.
Mrs. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer,
Yes.
Miss Wade.
Yes. And Mr. Trask is going to summarize for you what the findings were today for you, Mr. Grace and Mr. Christian.
So, Mr. Kristen, the Sun State property of TS LLC was found in violation of Section 8-16 and 8-40. They're now in compliance. Should either one of those violations reoccur within 5 years, they'll be deemed repeat violations and subject to daily fines of up to $500 a day. As for Section 8-52, the Code Enforcement Board has found a violation of that section as well and given you until December 18th, 2020 to come into compliance. Should it not be in compliance by that date, a $50 a day fine will be assessed. Based upon your testimony today, I think city staff, Ms. Hughes, will be inspecting the property, determine whether it's in compliance. Once it's in compliance, an affidavit of compliance will be issued and it will be provided to you. You may want to double check that with the Code Enforcement Department after today's hearing. Those orders will be reduced to writing within 10 days and provided to the property owner at the address listed at the property appraiser's records. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 10, you wish to have it established?
No, I'm sorry, the number 10's complied. They're good.
You don't need any further action?
Correct.
Same for 11 and same for 12?
Yes, ma'am.
We're going to skip down to 15?
13?
13.
Excuse me, 13? Case number 20-800000625, 1639 Sea Breeze Drive, Desiree Valencia. Is anyone here for that case? Please raise your hand.
If you're here for this case, please raise your hand in Zoom and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Thank you. Would you like to present the case, please?
Okay, so I'll go ahead and share my screen. This case honestly baffles me a little bit, only because it is only for pre-collection practices. I think this is the first time I've ever had one of these go to code board just for this issue. But literally, we have probably about 7 cases on this street, and to turn around, you have to go to the end of the street. So every time I've gone, the trash cans have been outside. They have never once been taken in. I only took pictures, I think, twice on 2 different, excuse me, I'm having trouble here, on 2 different inspections, but they literally, I'm not scrolling down for some reason. Mark, do you have any idea why I can't scroll down?
Give it a shot now. It looks like you are pressing the right-hand side of the trackpad instead of the left.
I am.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're glad it happens to you too.
Okay, so the first one was the initial inspection. This was the second one. And then this was the one as of yesterday, where this has often been an occurrence where the garbage is out and there's trash piled around it. So that's what this case is for.
What day is garbage collection?
It's on Mondays and Thursdays. All of the inspections, I double checked myself just to be sure, were done on days other than those 2 days. And I also checked the website to make sure that that area, because it is further out there, has the same day. And according to the website, all trash collection for Tarpon Springs is Monday and Thursday. Okay. So my name is Beth Hughes, and I am the City Code Inspector certified by the Florida Association of Code Enforcement. This is case number 20-800-00625 for 1639 Seabreeze Drive for Desiree Rose Valencia. Exhibit 1 is all photographs. Exhibit 2 are all notices to include notice of violation and notice of hearing. Administrative 3 are the administrative documents to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records. Exhibit 4 is the affidavit of posting and the copy of the sign. All of the photographs and exhibits were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All notice of violation and notice of hearings are sent, return receipt requested, and first-class mail. Please accept all exhibits into the record as evidence.
Thank you, Bobby. Will do so.
We have not received any contact with the owner. On October 13th, 2020 was the initial inspection. We noticed that the trash cans were left curbside. I was actually in a training day with Officer Gasson, my first training day, I believe. And we were there on that street for a different purpose, if I recall. And the trash cans were left curbside. And we did receive a complaint from an owner on that street. The notice of violation was mailed and the green card returned COVID-19. On October 23rd, a reinspection was conducted. The trash cans were still left in public view. On October 23rd, the notice of hearing was mailed. And again, honestly, the only reason a notice of hearing was mailed that quickly was because I had been down that street on multiple occasions, multiple days of the week, and they were always there. So that's the reason why I sent it without sending a final notice first. On October 30th, 2020, the sign was posted and affidavit of posting signed. On November 11th, the final inspection for the November hearing was conducted. The trash cans were still on the street with trash bags and debris around them. On November 12th, 2020, the deferral notice was mailed. The green card was returned COVID-19. On November 25th, the sign was posted and an affidavit of posting was signed. On December 9th, 2020 was the final inspection, which was the last picture I showed you where the trash cans were still on the street with trash bags around them. So we would request that they be found in violation of 8-16, City Code 8-16 for pre-collection practices. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Anyone have questions for her? Hearing none, we'll listen for a motion from a board member.
Based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented by law, and at the time of the alleged violation, Section 8-16 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was enforced in effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
You can take either one.
Bobby?
There were 2 seconds, so
I know, I was.
it's hard to tell with the masks on their faces. Ms. Archer did one also.
I heard Ms. Norfleet, but I did hear something in the background.
Yeah, Ms. Norfleet, it doesn't matter. Either way is okay.
Already.
If there's no discussion, she can call the roll.
Mr. Favidio?
Abstain.
Can I ask you why you're abstaining?
Mr. Perfidio was one of the
Hold on a second,
complainants.
Beth. I need Mr. Perfidio
Yeah,
to.
I was one of the complainants.
Okay, so you're abstaining from the meeting today. You have to fill out a conflict of interest form. You need to fill that out within 15 days of today's meeting and provide it to the city clerk's office. We'll get you the form.
Super.
Thank you.
Yes. Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes,
That completes your roll call.
that motion is passed. Could we have a recommendation motion from another board member?
I move that the respondent shall have until January the 11th to bring the property into compliance with said code 8-16 or suffer a fine of $50 a day for each day thereafter that the respondent remain in violation of said code.
Before there's a second, do you want them to wait that long to bring their cans in?
30 days? Oh, that's a question.
I don't think we have to give a 30-day notice on this, do we? Beth?
No, it should take a matter of, I mean, we want to be able to notify them of the results, obviously, but I would say a week.
Okay. Would you be willing to
December
modify
the
your
18th?
motion? Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
You modified it to when? I'm sorry.
December 18th.
Oh, very good.
We can have a roll call, please.
Mrs. Telliar? Yes. Mrs. Norfleet?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes. And if I heard correctly, they have until December 18th to bring their trash cans in, or they pay $50 a day. Skip down to 15. This is a repeat violator. The address is, or the
Not
code
14?
case is 20-8000559, 1404 Meyer Lane, Jean Uloa. Ms. Uloa, are you on Zoom with us?
If you are on Zoom, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
We'll proceed with the case and the city staff will present. Thank you.
Okay, I'm actually surprised he's not here.
I am
We
too.
postponed it purposely to let him be in attendance. So basically, this is the same case as the property at 1404 Meyer Lane. It's the one that had the structure that the footprint was put on the wrong property lines. So what had happened is we'd had previous cases for overgrowth on this property over the years. And we received another complaint, unfortunately, prior to the structure being removed. So Officer Gasson went out, and this was the picture of the initial inspection on October 6th, where there was some vegetation overgrowth and debris. And it appeared also that some of the vegetation removal had been being stored inside the unfinished structure as well. So that was just his pictures of the overgrowth. Okay, so my name is Beth Hughes. I'm the City Code Inspector certified by the Florida Association of Code Enforcement. This is case number 20-800000559 for 1404 Meyer Lane for Gene C. Uloa. He had been a repeat violator for case number 15-800000566 in violation of 8-40 and 8-52. He did not receive any fines during that code case. He was simply established. He was found again in violation for 8-40 for case number 19-800000176. That was the case for the structure. He had been being charged $200 a day, totaling $56,552. He has been since put into compliance. The structure has been removed, and he's doing a fine reduction request, which will be on the January agenda. So Exhibit 1 are all photos. Exhibit 2 are all notices to include the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit 3 are the administrative documents to include the case summary, the previous board orders, and the property appraiser and tax collector records. Exhibit 4 is the affidavit of posting and copy of the sign. Exhibit 5 is the affidavit of prosecution costs. All of the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All notice of violation and notice of hearings are sent return receipt requested in first-class mail. Please accept all exhibits into the record as evidence.
Thank you. Bobby will do that, please.
Yes, ma'am.
We have had contact with the owner, both via phone and email. On September 28th, 2020 was the initial inspection, and Officer Gasson did confirm that the property was overgrown. On September 28th, 2020, the repeat violator notice of hearing was mailed and no green cards were returned. On October 6th of 2020, a reinspection was conducted, and the property still had overgrowth near the structure and a pile of debris inside what would be the garage, not in compliance. On October 13th of 2020, and this was in my first or second training day, I was with him when he did the reinspection on October 13th of 2020 and did put the property into compliance at that time. On November 12th of 2020, a deferral notice was mailed and no green cards were returned. On November 25th of 2020, the sign was posted and an affidavit of posting was signed. So the property was in violation from the date of initial inspection, which was on September 28th of 2020, until put into compliance as of October 12th, 2020. That was when we were told it was in compliance, even though the inspection was done on the 13th. We always give the owner the benefit of the doubt, so it was put into compliance as of October 12th. And that concludes the city's presentation.
I had one question. You said no previous fines were issued, or only the ones that are in contention and coming back?
So the previous case where they were established for the overgrowth,
Yes.
On the 2015 case was only as established. It was not in violation at the time, so no fines were
Levied.
thank you. So, and then the other case, even though it's the same violation code, it was due to the structure, and that was the one for the 200 per day.
But Mr. Trask, any violation after that establishment falls under that ruling, correct?
So it'd have to be 5 years, within 5 years, the same code section violated by the same property owner. So the 2015 case, I haven't heard the date yet, but assuming that as this case is within 5 years of that order being entered, it would be considered a repeat violation of 8-52. 8-40, there's no question that it's within 5 years, because that was the 2019 case.
Yes. So whatever we find today falls under the repeat violator.
8-40, the answer is yes. I just don't know on 8-52 whether it was within 5 years. So for example, if the 15 case came in February of 2015 and this case came in October of 2020, it would be outside the 5-year time frame. So I don't know the answer to that question because we haven't heard that testimony yet.
Okay.
So maybe Ms. Hughes can tell us when the previous order was entered in 2015.
Yep, I'm looking that up right now. Okay, this is going to be interesting. This was scheduled for no, I think we're okay, actually. It was for the code board hearing of December 10th of 2015.
December 10th?
Yes, and they were found to be in the initial date of the inspection where they were found to be in violation was on September 28th of 2020.
It would actually be the date the order was entered. So it would have had to have been sometime post December 10th, 2015. It would probably be around the 20th of December. So it is a repeat violation of both code sections.
Thank you.
Okay.
I needed that understanding.
No, I appreciate you double checking.
But we can still not charge $200 a day for not mowing, can't we? We can adjust the fine?
The fine is $0 to $500 a day.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Regardless of what the previous fine was.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, you need to look at the facts and circumstances of each case independently.
Anybody else have a question?
It was, they complied on 10/12. When did you start?
The initial inspection was September 28th.
September.
14 days, roughly. Any other questions? Could I hear a motion, please?
I move that based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented by law, that the respondent was in violation of section 8-16, no, I'm sorry. 8-40 and 8-52 of the Tarpon Springs City Code from September the 28th until such time the property is brought into compliance. A fine of,
It's in compliance.
it is not in compliance, I'm sorry.
10/12.
Start off with from September 28th
September the
until,
28th to October the 12th, and a fine of $50 a day for the 14 days, or a fine of $1,400. In addition, I move that the city be awarded $69.50 for the cost it incurred in prosecuting the case.
$700. 50 times 14 is $700.
Sorry.
For not mowing his yard?
Yeah. It's a repeat violator.
And you remember the circumstances?
So you just need a second.
I'm going to say second, and let's go from there.
Okay, discussion, right?
The house was the house built across the property line? He's actually had to tear the whole thing down.
Is that what she said?
And his fines,
You suggest?
his fines are already thousands of dollars. That wasn't presented. Maybe I'm not allowed to even say that, but we can do the math.
My motion stands.
Motion stands. Call for question. Bobby? Call for a vote?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Perfidio?
Aye.
Mrs. Tellior?
No.
Ms. Norfleet?
No.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
No.
No. Could I hear a second motion?
I'm not
Failed.
done. Motion failed, so.
Mo-
you can do a
motion
second
failed.
motion.
Second motion?
What do you want to try, $25? Is it, or 10, or
Mm-hmm.
25? Okay.
Significantly less.
I move that based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented by law, that the respondent was in violation of 8-40 and 8-52 of the Tarpon Springs City Codes from September the 28th until October the 12th, and a fine of $25 a day for 14 days.
$350.
$350, thank you. In addition, I move that the city be awarded $69.50 for the costs it incurred in prosecuting the case.
Did I hear a second?
Second?
Thank you. If there's no discussion, Bobby will call for a vote.
Mr. Perfidio?
Aye.
Mrs. Tellior?
Yes.
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes,
Your motion carries.
thank you. Thank you for modifying that. Now we're on item 16. Do we need to take a break for
Yes.
5 minutes, please? We'll reconvene in 5 minutes, approximately 4, 8, or 10. Thank you. I should have turned low phone.
We're only about halfway through.
Oh, we're doing good. A lot of cases.
Should we move that one complicated one up?
No. Unless you
Just
want to, it's a,
walk a little bit, just
oh,
to
yeah.
be sure I still
Okay, yeah,
can.
we can move it up. Okay.
reconvening our meeting at 4:07. And because we might need legal help, we're going to skip to old business, which is item 24, motion to quash. And then we'll come back and review some of these other items.
We still have one more repeat violator case.
You want me to finish that first?
I'm going to go to the one for Mr. Trask has to leave.
I'm so sorry. I didn't understand that. I understand what you're saying. I apologize.
I think we can manage the others pretty well, but we might need
I
help on
got you.
this
Yes,
one.
ma'am. I'm sorry. I didn't understand.
Okay, we're going to skip to item 24, which is number 20-80000. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros, and then it was 92.
Yes, ma'am.
1000 Peninsula Avenue, USA Federal National Mortgage Association. And I don't believe anybody is here for that case. Is that correct, Mr. Jump?
If anyone is here for this case, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Thank you. I'll have to, Beth, if you'd like to catch us up on this one, please present the case.
Get my copy of it. Sorry. Okay, so basically, it's been so long, I have to refresh my memory. So basically, an order was completed under one name, and so let's see. The order was vacated, excuse me, before it was updated in Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector. So when it ended up going to Code Board, the name that was on the order was incorrect, and that's the reason we're requesting to quash it, because it had been changed legally, it just hadn't been updated in the Property Appraiser website, so we did not know that.
So all we need to do is, I'm unclear. If we quash this, does that mean all those violations are null and void, or do we start all over?
Basically, we have to start over again. Yes, ma'am.
I need help.
City's asking, right?
Let me go ahead and add some basic information to you. Hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense. This property was owned by Michael Lacey. The property was in foreclosure. The foreclosure case was completed. The certificate of title, giving title ownership of the property in the foreclosure case, was given to the bank. Almost immediately, the Code Enforcement Department began a code enforcement case against the bank. While that code enforcement case was pending, there was obviously something going on in the foreclosure case that the city staff was not aware of. Ultimately, the court reversed the title ownership of the property and entered an order reversing that, basically vacating the certificate of title. Once that order was entered, it basically put the property ownership back in the name of the original property owner, Mr. Lacey. Because of the fact that the code board order was in the name of the bank, but they were not the proper owner because the prior owner was vacated, it means nothing. So what we're trying to do is what the city, is trying to do is just to clean up the code enforcement case by vacating the order that was entered by the code enforcement board because they were not the property owners at the time. So all you need to do would be a motion to grant the city's motion to quash. That would be the appropriate motion. And then the city could, of course, if they haven't done already, begin another code enforcement case against the current property owner.
And just to update you on that, I apologize. I had forgotten. The bank actually did get the property into compliance, so there is no open code case on this address. I had to refresh my memory. I apologize. So we did not need to restart one. The bank did actually get the property into compliance.
Well, that's refreshing. Could I hear a motion, please?
I move that we quash
The prior board order.
the prior order. That's it. Quash the prior order.
Second.
If you call for a roll call, please.
Mr. Porfirio,
Aye.
Mrs. Telliar,
Yes.
Mrs. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We're going to also look at the fine reduction request before Mr. Trask leaves. You want to do a quick update on, the rules were printed out for us in our packet. They were on, yeah. It's hard to find the page number, but the rules say under no circumstances may the amount of the fine be reduced once foreclosure action is instituted. Is there anyone here for this case? Mr. Jump, do you have anyone? What case number are we on?
If anyone is here for this case, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Thank you. I did have a couple of questions, Mr. Trask. It's this owner's responsibility to do a title search when he acquires this property to make sure there aren't fines in place, correct?
They don't have to do that. It would obviously be the smartest thing to do to make sure that when you're buying a property, it has no title issues. I'm not sure whether title insurance or title search was done on this property, but any lawyer giving advice on property purchases would require or advise a title search be done.
Property owner does not give a date as when he entered into the purchase of this, but there is a recommendation from the city. Would anybody like to make a recommendation for this item?
Make a recommendation that we go with the last paragraph. I don't know if I should read it or not, but the property was,
Yes.
the property is brought into compliance through proper permitting process. The property has been significantly improved. The property was purchased for $35,000 and improvement costs were approximately $15,600. As a result, our department could support nothing less than $15,000. I'd like to request we do that or make a motion.
Does anybody want to second that?
Second.
Make sure we have clarity that the motion is to grant the request for fine reduction down to $15,000.
Yes.
Aye.
Mrs. Telliar,
Yes.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
No.
Mrs. Archer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade.
Yes.
Carries 6-1.
Now, just to keep everybody totally confused, we'll go back to the last item, number 16 under repeat violator. Number 20-8000617, vacant lot on Bay Shore. Go ahead, please. Mr. Jump, no one's here, correct?
If anyone is here for this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and share the screen. Just a couple of pictures. These were taken by Officer Gasson on October 7th. Just showing the overgrowth. And that's it. So I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, so my name is Beth Hughes. I'm the City Code Inspector certified by the Florida Association of Code Enforcement. This is for a repeat violation case number 20-800-00617 for a vacant lot across from 762 Bayshore for Polarity LLC, parcel number 112715048780020130. Exhibit 1 are all photos. Exhibit 2, all notices to include the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit 3 are the administrative documents to include the case summary, previous board orders, and property appraiser and tax collector records. Exhibit 4 are the affidavit of posting and copy of the sign. Exhibit 5 are the affidavit of prosecution costs. All of the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All notice of violation and notice of hearings are sent return receipt requested in first-class mail. Please accept all exhibits into the record as evidence.
Thank you. Bobby will do so, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we did have contact with the owner. Honestly, the first time I had contact with him, I believe, is when I was trying to find a number to let him know that the November hearing had been deferred. Anyways, that was the only contact I had with him. Excuse me, I believe I had a phone call from him as well. So October 7th, 2020 was the initial inspection. It was conducted by Officer Gasson. The property is less than 10,000 square feet and overgrown. On October 7th, 2020, a repeat violation notice of hearing was mailed and the green card was signed COVID-19. On October 28th of 2020, a reinspection was conducted. The property was put in compliance as of October 26th. The office was not informed it was in compliance, but I realized this was a repeat violation case that was now in compliance while looking at the orange fencing in the right-of-way due to a City of Tarpon Springs project. So to clarify what I'm talking about, we actually had another complaint or someone asking what work was going on out there. And being that we didn't know, I went out there to take a look, discovered that it was actually a city project that was going on. And when I just found that out, I also realized, because I didn't do the initial inspection, I wasn't sure that this was an actual code case. I believe the city actually put this property into compliance because they were using it to store some of their items there. But regardless of how it came into compliance, it was in compliance. I realized my picture that I had sent asking what project it was to Shannon Brewer was dated 10/26. So that was the date that we put it into compliance. So on October 30th of 2020, the sign was posted and the affidavit of posting signed. On November 12th, 2020, the deferral notice was mailed and the green card returned C-19. On November 25th, the sign was again posted and the affidavit of posting signed. So the property was in violation from the date of the initial inspection on October 7th, 2020, until we verified compliance on October 26th, 2020. And that concludes the city's presentation.
Previous fine for that property?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for asking. The previous fine was for case 18-800-00701. They were in violation of 8-40 and 8-52. They were fined $25 a day, and they still owe $4,791.75.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions for her? Could I hear a motion, please? Anybody?
They're in compliance now?
Yes.
I
Thank you.
move that based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented by law, that the respondent was in violation of section 8-52 of the Tarpon Springs City Code from October the 7th until October the 26th Yes.
Days.
19 days. At,
This
Mm-hmm.
For 19 days.
$950.
$950. I move that the city be awarded $950 for the total fine. In addition, I move that the city be awarded $69.50 for the cost incurred in prosecuting the case.
Second.
Bobby?
Can you say what the fine was instead of the total? What was it per day?
50.
A day?
Thank
That's what I was thinking.
Bobby?
Just one moment. Mr. Porfirio?
Aye.
Mrs. Tellior?
Yes.
Mrs. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mrs. Wade?
Yes.
Motion carried.
We're now under the affidavits of non-compliance. First item is 19-8000795, 445 East Martin Luther King Drive, which is owned by Wells Fargo Bank.
Mr. Jump, is there anyone present on Zoom for this case?
We do have a raised hand for this case.
Oh, thank you. Could you identify yourself, please?
Yes. Good afternoon. Justin Ortega, attorney on behalf of Wells Fargo.
Repeat your name, please.
Not a problem. Justin Ortega.
Thank you. Does he need to be sworn in then?
No, he's an attorney.
So no, the answer is no, unless he's going to be providing testimony. Mr. Ortega, are you going to be providing testimony?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Did you want to add anything to the case, or this is a non-compliance, non-compliance hearing? If you're going to add something, we're going to have to go ahead and have the city staff present first.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to add just a little bit of history with regards to the eviction case.
Okay. All right. So we need to have the city present the case then.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, so basically, this is just the affidavit of non-compliance. The property manager has contacted me on multiple occasions. I know they are trying to get the property into compliance. The problem, which I believe the attorney is probably going to discuss, is that they're having an issue getting the eviction completed. So of course, until that's done, they can't get in there to remove the debris, to even see what debris is still remaining behind the fenced area. So for right now, there still are items that I believe during during the deadline inspection, well, obviously for us to put non-compliance, it was not in compliance at the time. And we also need to be invited on the property when it is in compliance, just to see that all the items that were behind the fence, it was a very, very large amount of debris has been removed. So the city contends that the property is not in compliance, and we do understand that that until the tenants are evicted, they probably cannot bring it into compliance. And I believe we just also want to make it clear, once they are in compliance, then they can obviously do a fine reduction request explaining the circumstances of why it wasn't in compliance by the deadline. And that concludes my testimony.
Board, do you have any questions for her? Mr. Ortega, do you have a just question for her, and then we'll give you a chance to present your case?
No questions at this time.
Thank you. Your turn.
Yes, I spoke with Ms. Hughes, and she's fully aware, but I just wanted to make the board aware of the eviction case. We are actively pursuing the eviction. We did send out a motion for writ of possession back in September. As you're aware, during COVID, Some judges are a little bit adverse to evicting tenants on the property, and that is the issue here. In conjunction with the property manager, we've not been able to actually make contact with them to work through a cash for keys to get them out, or just to really, hey, let us onto the property to fix it. But my client is actively pursuing the eviction, and as soon as we can get in their board, we will remedy the property as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Ortega? Staff, you want to summarize, Beth?
No, I think the city's good. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I move based on testimony, evidence, and facts presented by law that at the time of the alleged violation, City Code 8-22, 8-40, 8-52, 6-1, and IPMC Code 505-1 of the Code of Ordinances.
Compliance hearing.
I'm sorry.
So this would be whether or not that you're going to accept the affidavit of compliance or not, to determine whether the property was in compliance within the prior board order timeframe, and consider whether or not you're going to award the city its prosecution costs in prosecuting the case.
You're right. I move that based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented by law that the respondent was in violation of sections 8-20, 8-40, 8-52, 6-1, and IPMC Code 505-1 of the Tarpon Springs Code of Enforcement from was it October the 2nd? Where is it? When is it
You're in the
from?
wrong one. Isn't he in the wrong one?
You're only doing an affidavit of non-compliance with a fine at this point, I think.
But the date of the initial inspection.
There's no dates on
There's
that.
no date needed.
The date of non-compliance is of the board order is on the
And this is
the
a-
affidavit of non-compliance,
it.
if that's what he's asking for.
Fine. I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts
Thanks.
presented in law that the respondents failed to timely comply with the board's prior order within the time prescribed and to award the city $231.50 for the cost incurred in prosecuting of this case.
Second.
Do we need a roll call for this one? Yes, Bobby, roll call, please.
Aye.
Mrs. Telliar? Yes. Fleet?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Ms. Swade?
Yes.
Carries.
Do we need to summarize for Mr. Ortega? I'm sure he knows all about this.
I'd be happy to. Mr. Ortega, the Code Enforcement Board has found that the property was not brought into compliance timely as the prior board order had provided. It has also awarded the city its prosecution costs of $231.50. Once the property has been brought into compliance, you need to contact the code enforcement staff. They'll inspect the property and then issue that affidavit of compliance. Subsequent to that, you can petition the Code Enforcement Board for a fine reduction pursuant to its Rules of Procedure, Rule 5, Section 4. You may want to get a copy of those. There'll be an order that'll be issued by the Code Enforcement Board within the next 10 days and provided to the property owner at the address listed at the property appraiser's office. If you want a courtesy copy of that, please contact the Code Enforcement staff and they'll be happy to provide that to you at your address as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 18, 20-8, 0000311. This is also an affidavit of non-compliance.
We need to make sure that there's no one on Zoom. Mr.
Thank you.
Jump, is there anyone here that's attending on this particular case?
If you are here for this case, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time, sir.
Thank
Thank
you. Beth, do you have anything to present for this one? We just go right through it?
Yes, no, ma'am. It's simply, the only reason there's no prosecution costs is part of it was a repeat violation, so she'd already been charged those costs with the initial case. Otherwise, the property is not in compliance at this time, per the city's opinion.
So affidavit of non-compliance with no fine. Could I hear a motion, please?
I move we accept the affidavits of compliance in
No,
case
fine.
18-8000449 and in case
Fine.
19-8000176 and in case
He's reading the wrong one.
18-8000389 and in case number 18-8000926. And I move we accept the affidavit of compliance in case number 20-8000229. And there is an affidavit of prosecution costs for $156.
Can that be done with the others where there's no fine? He skipped that. We'll go back.
Yeah, I've got it. He skipped it. So he went on. So you can go ahead and just do them out of order since they've already been read.
Except for that last one, which has a fine or which has a prosecution cost.
Yeah, he included that in his motion.
And that's okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was there a second?
I did.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you just need to go back to that last one then.
Okay.
Now we're going to go back to item 18, which we inadvertently skipped. And this was an affidavit of non-compliance. It's item number 20-8000311.
Did you say, Madam Chair, that we have to do two orders for that?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear
Have to
you.
do two different orders, two different motions for that? Since it's
A new violation and a repeat
and then a
violation?
repeat violation.
Yes. Would you,
No, let me clarify, and maybe I should have taken the repeat violation off.
then we need to do it officially.
No. I meant I perhaps shouldn't have added it to the agenda. She's not in compliance with any of them, but of course, the repeat violation has already been accruing daily fines. So that doesn't need an affidavit of non-compliance. That was established. It won't need anything but an affidavit of compliance when that comes into compliance, hopefully. So all the new violations, however, did get a deadline, and that's what, those are not in compliance at this time.
So ignore the repeat violation or do it as a separate,
Well, you're just accepting the affidavit of non-compliance for the new violations.
okay? And there's no city costs involved?
She had already paid the city costs when we did the repeat violation case,
Okay.
so we don't charge them twice.
All righty, that's nice. Could I hear a motion, please, on the acceptance of affidavit of non-compliance, but the fine amount will be $0?
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in the law that the respondent failed to timely comply with the board's prior order within the time prescribed.
I second.
We can do this by voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And just to cover ourselves, let's make sure that we understand that this repeat violator portion of that case will reappear for us at another time and is not being dealt with now.
It's still in violation. So it's in violation like all the other ones. It's just that because it was a repeat violation, they weren't given a deadline. They receive fines from the day it's found to be in violation until it comes into compliance. Does that answer the question?
Just wanted to make sure they didn't think we threw it in with the others and couldn't face it in the future. Thank you. Did we skip anything else?
Let's just see.
The approval of minutes, ma'am.
I move that we approve the minutes of October 8th as 2020 as printed.
I had a question on that. Was that the section of minutes where Mr. Trask came back and made a few alterations? Or was that the set before?
That was the corrected copy.
Okay, thank you. I said, she's made a motion. Would anybody like to second
Second.
that? All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any public comments?
Yeah, I want to tell, us first?
Are there any board or staff comments?
I want to tell Beth what a great job she's done today.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very
Good job,
much.
Beth.
Thank you.
And I was going to, Trask Partners had some new members who we have seen before who got new certification. I was going to congratulate them, but they're not here, so
Oh,
we don't need to. If no one has anything further,
Merry Christmas.
meeting is adjourned.
Beth, where's the box to throw this stuff in?
I think there's one out